There will come a moment, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, when someone tests your patience, when life throws chaos in your path, when the world expects you to snap, yell, crumble, or fight back. But in that quiet pause before reaction lies your greatest strength. It is not the loudest voice that wins. It is the calm one that commands the room. Power is not in reaction. It's in restraint. It's in knowing who you are so deeply no storm can shake you. The real master of life walks through fire without flinching, not because they feel no heat, but because they know their fire within burns brighter. You don't need to explain yourself, prove yourself, or react just to feel seen. You are seen the moment you choose silence over chaos, clarity over conflict, peace over proving. The world has convinced you that control looks like dominance, but real control is walking away without leaving a trace of bitterness behind. You are in control the moment you decide you don't need to. That decision is your freedom. That silence is your roar. That calm is your revolution. True power is revealed in your ability to pause, not in your impulse to respond. Emotional mastery begins when you stop letting others dictate your inner state. Silence isn't weakness. It's the highest form of self-command. Not reacting is choosing peace over proving, purpose over pride. When you don't react, you rise above, because control is keeping your energy, not wasting it. There is a quiet strength that lives in the space between impulse and action, a powerful silence that exists just before the moment we usually speak, shout, or retaliate. That space is where self-mastery begins. When something triggers us, an insult, a disappointment, a betrayal, our natural instinct is to react. Our minds race, emotions surge, and the pressure to defend, explain, or retaliate becomes overwhelming. But in that very moment, there's another option, a hidden path that few dare to take. It's the path of stillness, of pausing, of not reacting. And it's not weakness, it's not surrender. It's the highest form of strength that exists. Because when you pause, you create space between yourself and the chaos. You become the observer instead of the reactor. You reclaim your power from every external influence trying to pull you into the fire. The world trains us to believe that strength looks like force, like retaliation, like a quick and sharp response. But that's not strength. That's survival. Real strength is thriving. Real strength is knowing that you don't have to engage to win. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to react to be powerful. You simply have to know yourself so well, believe in your inner peace so deeply that nothing and no one can drag you out of it without your permission. When you choose not to react, you are choosing to stay rooted in your truth, not be uprooted by someone else's chaos. You are choosing not to feed the energy that wants to drain you. You are holding your ground without having to shout. You are walking through fire, not because you feel nothing, but because you know everything within you is stronger than anything coming at you. You realize that the person who pauses holds the greatest leverage. The one who can breathe, reflect, and act with intention rather than emotion is the one who leads the situation, not follows it. And in that leadership, in that quiet decision to hold your tongue, to still your hand, to steady your heart, there is victory. A victory over yourself, a victory over fear, a victory over the world's expectations that want you to be reactive, to be predictable, to lose your power just to feel seen. But when you don't react, you don't lose power. You gather it. You conserve it. You channel it into your purpose instead of scattering it in a moment of anger. You give yourself the gift of clarity, of wisdom, of control. And in that control, you rise. And the beauty is that this strength is available to anyone willing to develop it. It comes from choosing to observe before reacting, to reflect before speaking, to respond rather than explode. It comes from building a relationship with yourself so solid, so trusting that no opinion, no insult, no situation can sway your foundation. You stop looking to others to validate how you feel. You stop needing approval to remain at peace. You stop allowing external chaos to determine your internal clarity. And when that shift happens, you begin to live from a place of freedom, emotional freedom. The kind that lets you walk into any room, face any challenge, deal with any person, and still be yourself fully, unapologetically, and gracefully. You become the calm in the storm, the eye of the hurricane, the stillness in the earthquake. Not because you don't feel, because you feel everything. Like as you feel everything. But because you've trained yourself not to be ruled by what you feel. You've learned that peace is not something you find, it's something you choose and protect. That no person or situation can steal your joy unless you hand it over. And when you hold your power in this way, everything begins to change. Your relationships, your focus, your health, your future, because you've learned the most powerful truth of all, that nothing outside of you has the right to decide who you are within you. There is a rare and quiet strength found in those who do not rush to defend themselves, who do not explode in anger when challenged, who do not feel the need to always respond. These are not the people who lack emotion or conviction. They are the ones who have reached a place where silence is no longer emptiness, but a chosen fortress of power. Ugh. The world has conditioned many to think that silence is weakness, that if you're not speaking, you're surrendering, that if you're not defending, you're defeated. But the truth is, silence is one of the most commanding forces a person can wield. It's the stillness that speaks volumes without raising a single word. It's the presence that fills the space more powerfully than noise ever could. It's the shield that guards your peace without needing to strike back. When someone tries to push your buttons, they're often seeking to pull you into a battle where they control the energy. They want to see you angry, upset, unbalanced, because once they succeed, they own that moment. But when you remain silent, when you hold your composure, when you respond with calm instead of chaos, you instantly reverse the dynamic. You reclaim your position. You protect your ground. You show, without ever needing to explain, that you are not here to react. You are here to lead your energy with intention. In silence, there is no confusion about control. The one who stays quiet when others expect fury carries the deeper confidence, the heavier presence, the true influence, the true influence. It is not the words you say, but the energy you hold that others feel most intensely. People often underestimate the power of quiet, but silence carries a sharp edge. It disarms arguments, diffuses tension, and creates a space that unsettles those who thrive on reaction. Toot. When you choose not to participate in the emotional chaos being thrown at you, you become untouchable. You remove the fuel from their fire. You let their storm pass while you remain unmoved. That is strength, not because you didn't feel the urge to react, but because you chose not to. Not because you were weak, but because you knew your power was not tied to proving anything. There's a deep maturity in understanding that not every battle deserves your voice, not every insult deserves your attention, not every conflict deserves your peace. When you know yourself, when you have nothing to prove, when your self-worth is no longer tied to winning arguments or defending your name, you unlock a level of emotional clarity most never reach. You no longer need to yell to be heard, to argue to be right, to argue to be right, to fight to feel powerful. You simply hold yourself with such conviction that the silence you offer becomes the loudest message in the room. The world wants you reactive. Social media wants you impulsive. Drama thrives on immediacy, but silence breaks the cycle. Silence rewrites the pattern. Silence protects your energy in a world that profits from chaos. In that pause and that refusal to engage, you communicate something much stronger than anger ever could. You are in control of your thoughts, your feelings, your space. You are no longer available for emotional theft. You have learned how to sit in discomfort without letting it shape you. You've discovered how to protect your values without needing validation. You've mastered the rare art of internal stability. To stay silent doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about yourself to not get dragged into a storm that wasn't built for your soul. To stay silent doesn't mean you're ignoring what matters. It means you are choosing to give your energy to what matters most. It means you are choosing peace, power, and presence over noise, reaction, and regret. And that choice, repeated again and again, builds a life that is grounded, steady, and unshakable. The person who walks away without a word, not out of fear, but out of choice, carries a thunder within that no noise can match. The person who listens without interrupting, who observes before speaking, who understands the value of energy conservation, becomes magnetic in a world addicted to noise. There is a different level of influence that comes from self-control. There is a unique type of freedom that arises when you realize you don't owe your reaction to anyone. You don't owe your explanation. You don't owe your energy to every situation that tries to provoke you. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself stillness. You owe yourself the freedom that comes from knowing silence isn't a void. It's a decision, and it's a decision that only the strongest are brave enough to make every moment you feel the need to respond, to prove, to correct, to retaliate. Is a moment where your power is either protected or given away. The world will offer you endless invitations to react. People will test your patience, misunderstand your intentions, question your value, and challenge your calm. But the ones who rise above are not those who win the argument. They are the ones who realize that there are battles unworthy of their energy. Choosing not to react is not about surrendering your voice. It's about understanding the worth of your silence. It's about placing a higher value on your peace than on momentary pride. When someone tries to provoke you, they are not just expressing their emotions, they are seeking control. They want you to respond on their terms, to meet them in their chaos. But when you resist that pull, when you remain grounded, you communicate something powerful without saying a word. You show that your emotions are not available to be manipulated, that your energy is not free to be wasted, that your identity is not tied to others' perceptions. Restraint doesn't come from apathy. It comes from deep self-awareness. It comes from having walked through enough storms to know which ones are worth your time and which ones are simply distractions from your purpose. The idea that every disrespect must be addressed, every insult must be countered, every wrong must be made right is a belief rooted in insecurity. True confidence, the kind that can't be shaken, does not need to shout. It does not need to fight for recognition. It does not seek validation from chaos. It already knows. It already owns. And because it does, it can walk away without needing to explain why. That kind of power is not loud. It's composed. It's not aggressive. It's unmovable. It's not desperate. It's deliberate. Every time you choose not to react, you conserve energy. You maintain clarity. You preserve your emotional resources for what actually matters. And in doing so, you create space for something greater than reaction. You create space for reflection, for growth, for intentional action. Not reacting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what's necessary with purpose rather than panic. It means understanding that urgency is often a trap designed to rob you of perspective. It means knowing that stillness can be the most powerful statement you ever make. There's something unshakable about a person who no longer needs to win emotional wars. Someone who doesn't flinch at provocation, who doesn't crumble under pressure, who doesn't let temporary emotions become permanent regrets. They have learned that control is not in the domination of others. It's in the discipline of self. They are not trying to prove they're right, but they're proving they've risen. They're not chasing validation. They're holding presence. And in that presence, they influence more than words ever could. People who react quickly often regret deeply. They say what they don't mean. They burn bridges they didn't want to cross. They wound others and themselves because the moment controlled them instead of the other way around. But when you become the type of person who can pause, breathe, and choose your response, you become a master of yourself. You break the cycle. You break the cycle. You refuse to play the emotional games others try to trap you in. You set your own tone. You lead the energy in the room rather than follow it. This isn't about being passive. This isn't about avoiding responsibility. This is about reclaiming your right to choose what deserves your reaction. And it's about recognizing that not every situation is worthy of your attention. Not every person is qualified to access your peace. The more you grow, the more protective you become of your time, your emotions, and your energy. You no longer pour from an empty cup. You no longer allow others to dictate your pace. You move with purpose, speak with intention, act with clarity. You understand the power of not engaging. You've seen how staying quiet can disarm hostility. You felt how a deep breath can reset your entire mindset. You've experienced how choosing to stay calm changes the outcome entirely. And most importantly, you've learned that walking away is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's the wisdom that comes from knowing your worth, from trusting your path, from believing that not everything needs to be fixed, solved, or fought. As you step further into this level of self-mastery, you begin to notice how little actually demands a reaction. How many things once felt urgent, but now seem irrelevant? How many conversations once felt necessary, but now feel like noise? You start to prioritize peace over ego, purpose over pride, wisdom over impulse. And in doing so, you discover a version of yourself that's calmer, clearer, stronger. A version that leads with intention rather than emotion. A version that doesn't just survive storms, but stands still within them. There is an energy within you that is sacred, powerful, and limited. But devote every time you react to something that doesn't serve your highest self, you give away a piece of that energy. You trade your calm for chaos, your strength for struggle, your purpose for distraction. But there comes a point when you realize that not everything deserves your attention. Not every word needs a reply. Not every situation needs your involvement. There is wisdom in choosing where your energy flows, and that wisdom is what separates the drained from the powerful, the reactive from the grounded, the chaotic from the intentional. When you don't react, it doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've learned how to feel without becoming consumed. You've learned how to observe your emotions like waves, acknowledging their rise, their pull, their intensity, without letting them drag you under. This ability to stay grounded in moments of emotional intensity is not natural. It is built. It's developed through experience, through awareness, through countless times you've watched your own reactions and realized they cost more than they gave. So you begin to shift. You begin to understand that protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's essential every time you engage with negativity, every time you give in to provocation, every time you let your peace be disrupted by someone else's chaos. You are making a choice. You are choosing to spend your energy on something that does not return it. That exchange leaves you depleted, scattered, unfocused. But when you withhold your reaction, when you pause, when you reflect instead of retaliate, you conserve your power. You conserve your power. You hold on to your energy like it's currency because it is. What you give attention to grows. What you react to, you feed. What you engage with, you invite into your inner space. People often confuse silence for weakness, restraint for submission, stillness for indifference. But the truth is, not reacting is one of the boldest forms of self-respect. It's a declaration that your energy is valuable, your emotions are sacred, and your time is not to be wasted. When you refuse to react, you are not backing down, you are rising above. You are choosing long-term peace over short-term satisfaction. You are choosing emotional wealth over momentary wins. You are stepping into a version of yourself that no longer needs external chaos to feel alive or validated. There is a certain clarity that comes when you stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. When you stop responding to criticism that's rooted in insecurity. When you stop fighting battles that only drain you without leading anywhere. You begin to see that the real challenge isn't in the argument. It's in staying aligned with your peace despite it. You start noticing how often you've wasted hours, days, even weeks reacting to things that were never worthy of your energy. In the first place, the person who doesn't react is not passive. They are not disconnected. They are intentional. They've chosen a life where peace is not negotiated. They've chosen to live from the inside out, not the outside in. They've learned how to anchor themselves so deeply that storms can rage around them, but none of it disturbs the ocean within. That kind of self-command doesn't come from books or lectures. It comes from lived experience. From choosing again and again to preserve energy rather than scatter it. From recognizing that every reaction is a transaction, and not all of them are worth the cost. You become a guardian of your own peace. You begin to hold space for what matters and release what doesn't. You let others have their opinions, their projections, their noise, while you remain rooted in your truth. You realize that you can observe without absorbing, that you can be present without participating, that you can hear without holding. And in that awareness, you begin to rise. Not in loud ways, not in explosive ways, but in quiet, steady, deliberate ways. You start building a life that reflects your values, your focus. Your calm, not reacting, becomes a form of strategy, a way to navigate the world with wisdom and power. It becomes your filter, helping you discern what's worth your time and what's just noise. You don't get pulled into gossip, into petty arguments, into emotional traps that used to consume you. You begin to see through them. You begin to see how much stronger you are when you protect your energy instead of proving your point. You begin to live from a place of fullness rather than depletion. There is something deeply magnetic about someone who no longer lets everything move them. They walk into a room with calm. They speak with intention. They listen more than they talk. They act rather than react. And people feel it. People are drawn to it. Because in a world where everyone is reacting to everything, the one who doesn't becomes unforgettable. The one who holds their energy becomes rare. The one who values their peace becomes powerful beyond measure when you don't react. You rise, not because you have to prove anything, but because you know your energy is the most precious resource you have. And you're no longer willing to waste it on anything that doesn't feed your soul, support your purpose, or reflect the person you've chosen to become.